Hello, everyone, and welcome to Being Well with Philadelphia Integrative Medicine, a virtual talk with your PIM providers to source support during these changing times. For those of you who don't know, Philadelphia Integrative Medicine, PIM for short, is run by a team of wonderful providers. Joining us tonight are Linda Sherland, nurse practitioner, Zoe Phillips, physician assistant, Erin O'Reeker, nutritionist, and Dr. Georgia Tetlow, physician. I want to take a moment now to give you some background on PIM's founder, Dr. Georgia Tetlow. Dr. Tetlow is a physician and mentor to clinicians. She is board certified in integrative medicine, a clinical assistant professor of rehabilitation medicine at Sidney Kimmel Medical College at Thomas Jefferson University. She has completed a Bravewell Fellowship in Integrative Medicine at the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine, and she is a certified practitioner through the Institute for Functional Medicine. In June, PIM celebrated its 10-year anniversary of serving patients and our community. Dr. Tetlow is not only a leader in the medical community, she is the heart of PIM. So without further ado, it is our great pleasure to turn this over to Dr. Georgia Tetlow. Georgia, they're all yours.
And it's my pleasure to be with you. I would like to just share some of our program tonight, and you'll see that come up. So this is our team. You don't see all of our administrative staff. You see myself and the provider staff tonight smiling back at you and being present with you in your living rooms and dining rooms tonight. We always like to start with a centering meditation, and I'd like to dedicate this centering meditation to my family members. I've been learning something very personal in these last couple of days, and I made some mistakes in how I was communicating with my family, and I learned some very valuable lessons. I shared some information because I was trying to help, and what I didn't do was to sense and to listen and to pay attention to the person and to what was out there. And was there an interest? Was there a readiness? Was there an openness for me to interact, for me to share? And what I learned was I had best of intentions. I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't mean to in any way impair my relationships. But I learned that I would really, I'd benefit. I learned that it's important to sense and to feel into the other and to see what's out there, and to also wait for an opening and wait even for an invitation and not assume. So I'd like to dedicate this centering meditation to my family. And I see if there's a message coming for me. I'm not able to see that while I'm in presentation mode to my presenter. So if there's something you'd like to get through, please send me a text. Okay. Taking a moment to let yourself and your soul, your own presence, arrive. Giving yourself a moment to sense, to feel into, just to reach out and touch the floor with your feet. Just noticing where your hands are, if they're resting in your lap, if your hands are touching or open to the air. Feeling that contact or that open space. Even feeling into that contact with the air. Almost feels like there's nothing there if we're not touching something, and actually sensing into that. It's safe to breathe, and it's safe to allow everything in your experience. So your sensations, feelings, even allowing the quality and the speed of thoughts, the mental level, however that might find itself in this moment. Seeing if you can invite an unconditional awareness, which is a little bit more choiceless, a little bit more receptive, and we're being receptive to ourselves. I'd like to invite forgiveness and invite understanding, invite peace that each of us can feel more and more inside us. I'd like to invite you into your still point inside, into a slightly more gentle breath, more gentle way to hold your belly. It's just safe to take a few moments to let go into yourself and into this moment. It's safe to be right where you are. Safe for me to be right where I am. We'll spend some moments in silence together, allowing, breathing, being. I'd also like to invite you to acknowledge something you might be grateful for today. Something that you appreciated, something that you noticed. Conjuring that up in your mind's eye and feeling the gratitude in your body. And I'd like to share with you just a simple quote that I shared with all of our patients as a patient-wide message on March 17th. This message has stayed with me, and it helps me to re-listen to it. I invite you to find your still point in this remarkable storm. We have an opportunity to return to self and to each other. As we begin to make decisions from a more calm and centered place, we will create less work, more connection, and be able to support ourselves and others better. We are here for you. Beginning to complete your centering meditation, I'll invite you to wiggle your toes and fingers, and then perhaps moving in a way where your body would just spontaneously like to stretch or get a drink of water. And I'll be inviting my colleague, Linda Sherland, to move us forward into our next section, into our evening together. Thank you, Linda, for being here. Thank you to my team.
You're so welcome, Dr. Tetlow. Thank you. I'd like to present our intention for this evening. We intend through this webinar that you feel more connected to yourself and your community. We intend that you know that we are here for you at PIM, and we want you to know it and we want you to feel it. We intend to let you know that we have telemedicine that's available worldwide. You can go to our website, philly-im.com, for more information if you're interested. I'd also like for you to know that in the state of Pennsylvania, our telemedicine visits are eligible for a super bill, which means that you can file that with your insurance. This is new in light of the COVID pandemic. And we also would like for you to know that at PIM, we treat all forms of chronic illness. There's a lot more detail on our website at phillyim.com, and I'd invite you to take a look if this is something that interests you. If you have questions, we also have free 20-minute consults where you would be able to talk to one of us, the practitioners, that you'll be meeting tonight. So we just want to welcome you. And now I'd like to turn it back to Dr. Tetlow, who has a message she would like to share.
So are you able to hear me? Is that okay? So if you can just raise your hand for my fellow presenters. Are you able to hear me? Thanks. I just got a message that I was muted, so thanks for letting me know. Wanted to share that we're inviting everyone to join us in a constructive and healing message and response in relation to what we're in the midst of and what we're experiencing, all of the changes and the ongoing changes that we're asked to adapt to. One of the things that was suggested to us by the community, a request which we have responded to, there was a request for us to provide a more daily connection with the general public, with our patient community, but also with anyone, not necessarily patients only, but actually anyone who would be interested in a constructive and healing message from a physician and their healthcare provider. So we have created a series of healing messages that you can opt in to receive every day. And I wanted to share with you one of those healing messages so that you can experience it as part of this webinar. And I'm also seeing if there's any messages that my colleagues have for me, please let me know via text because I can't see chat. And this will be an opportunity for just a brief message. You'll see it coming from me. There's a poem and also an invitation for you. So if this is something that speaks to you, if this is something that you'd like to continue to experience, then we'll explain how you can opt in for this daily connection. Monday through Friday, we'll be sending a brief video of just a couple minutes to remain in contact with you. Hi, this is Georgia Tetlow, recording from just west of Philadelphia, and I'm here to give you your first daily message. This is a daily message from me, Georgia Tetlow, MD, a message of support during the pandemic. This is a daily free message to the general public. I am extended to all of my patients, and also I extend it to you. So please share this if it's of service to you. Today I'd like to read you a poem by Rumi, one of my favorite poets and one of my favorite poems from him. I'll be reading this poem, and then I want to offer a tool for you that you can use ongoingly and go back to and again as a way to see what it is that you're needing moment to moment and day to day in this crisis. Then I'm going to read the poem one more time, and then I'll see you tomorrow. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness.
Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So tonight I'd like to share an instrument that I usually use with healthcare providers who sometimes at some points in their career have a crisis of self-care. And I developed an instrument years ago called the Tetlow Ten. And this is something I'd like to share it with you. This is available on our website for download, and we'll have a link for you in this email. This is something that you can use to help you discern what it is that you're needing, and then you can update it as needed. So the Tetlow 10, I'll share my screen to show you what that looks like. This is 10 things that you discern for yourself that are essential for you to feel in balance now. So these are things that on the left-hand side that you need. These can be activities and habits. And on the right, these can be attitudes you'd like to cultivate. Make sure that if you were to do the things on this list, that you would be feeling as though you're honoring yourself as the center of your life. I'd like to give you an example of what I created for myself as an example of a Tetlow 10. This is way before the pandemic. And these are the 5 habits and 5 attitudes that I identified to help me to stay centered. And I certainly don't do these perfectly. And they also change over time. So this is my Tetlow 10. Things to do: go to bed early, exercise or dance 3 times a week, take time for pleasure, community, connection, regular mind-body practice. In terms of attitudes, feeling gratitude for what's right, not needing to rush, doing a chosen task and watching out and not being distracted when I'm choosing to focus, asking for help, having an open heart, and communicating my needs. So what I hope you'll do right now is maybe take out a piece of paper. I'll just give you a chance to grab a piece of paper and maybe look for a pen. You might know where those things are. You might need to scramble a little bit to get that, because these are the kinds of things that we don't necessarily do later. You know, these things that care for us and remember us. So I'm going to give you a chance to get that pen and paper. And maybe in the future, if we're doing this again together, you can have extra printouts and blank ones of the Tetlow 10. And
So this is just an opportunity for you to get a little taste of that. And I think some of you have also heard a little bit about the Tetlow 10. So I'm going to share with you the guest house, the poem one more time, which is how the video ended. And this is such a beautiful invitation for me, because it's just an unconditional openness to what life brings me, the unexpected experience that I have throughout the day. In a series of moments, I'll have a sense of what I think might be happening, and then something else will occur. And there's such a beautiful chance for me to say yes, and to accept, to see myself as, in every aspect, including things that I'm learning. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. because each one has been sent as a guide from beyond. Translated by Coleman Barks. So I'll proceed with our next slide, which kind of tells you a little bit about how to actually participate in receiving these and how to sign up for these healing messages, these daily messages that will be from me. That's an example that you just saw, beginning of one. And there's actually new content in each one, and we're intending to have them be fresh and separate and of value to you in a way that calms and reassures you, but also gives you a chance to pause and receive that connection. This is just the banner that we created, a daily message from myself, intending to serve the public during the pandemic as a response to a request from the community. If you'd like to subscribe to these daily emails, here's the link. And actually, to find this link on our website, you'd actually go to the main page and you'd click on the COVID Safety and Support button. And then there's lots of resources for you for education and support and fun and support on every level, mind, body, and spirit. And you can just scroll down to halfway down the page. You'll see that there's a button in the center. It says subscribe to daily emails. I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Linda, and you'll see more from the rest of my team throughout the evening. Thank you.
Can you go ahead and put up our next slide, Dr. Tetlow?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the screen's not shared right now.
Okay, let me make sure that I have that. I apologize. I was advancing the slide, but if you don't share your screen, then you can't see it. So let me just make sure I'm queued up to the right slide. And there's a question about for the community, or would you like the image of the framework, Linda?
The first question.
Okay, so I'm about to share my screen, and thanks for your patience. Here's to being in process.
Right, thanks everyone. So questions, a couple of questions to think about. You know, is social distancing a new or an old topic? Kind of feels new to me every day. You know, I walk out and I'm going on my walk at lunch and I'm looking around. So sometimes it's new and then sometimes I'm kind of bored and tired of it. The other thing is, you know, thinking about, do you need help communicating this with strangers or loved ones, the importance of this. So I'm just putting these questions out there, inviting you to think about them. Also, if this sparks questions, if there are things that we're discussing this evening, please feel free to go into the Q&A, either at the bottom or the top of your screen, and go ahead and put a question in, and we'll do our best at the end to answer that. Now I'd like to see the framework slide, Dr. Tetlow. Mm-hmm. So this is a beautiful framework. I came to Pennsylvania to join PIM in June, and the first group that I went to was an integrative providers group that's been led by Dr. Tetlow for the past 6 years. And we discussed and used this well-being framework. And when Dr. Tetlow and our team began to think about these webinars, we really wanted to bring this to everyone, not just to healthcare providers. So I'm really wanting to talk about this with you a little bit tonight. And what I'd like to do is share a story from today, a patient I was seeing. And she was talking about where you see on the outside of the triangle, emotional health, mindset, and community. So she started talking to me about her mindset and how stressed she'd been. She lives at home alone, so she was feeling void of community. Her only way to reach out and to really touch people was through social media, through Zoom meetings, things like that. But what she decided was she would have a new mindset. And she decided, how could she see this as a positive thing? Number one, she still had her job. she was working from home. And by working from home, that meant she could cook really good food. So she was eating much cleaner. She was sleeping much better, sleeping at night, getting more hours, getting more rest, because she was not having to wake up and shower and get a commute, all these sorts of things. And what she found was that her emotional health was so much better, that she was de-stressing rather than increasing stress. And what we know is that as she began to shift that mindset and the stress lowered, she is in a healing place. So her immune system is stronger. Her hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is healing. It's becoming stronger. So I loved speaking about this, that this is an opportunity, even though we have a lot of stressors, and maybe we don't have everything we need when we look at our well-being framework. But as we create ways to reach out and have community, to shift our mindset, to have some changes in our emotional health, have support, reach out for support, then we see our well-being increasing all the time. Now, I'd love to introduce Erin Arikar. She is our nutritionist. She's going to talk about a couple of examples we have in the center: formal, moment-to-moment, formal or moment-to-moment practices. So a meditation like we started with might be a little bit more of a formal practice that you're listening into or participating in. And then there are moment-to-moment things. What do we do in support? And so Erin, I think it would be wonderful if you would go ahead and share some examples that you have.
Thanks, Linda. So when I think about being in the moment, I reflect on a question that someone once asked me, which was, reflecting on when was the happiest time in your life, and what were you doing during that time frame, and what kind of activities were you doing at that point in your life. And I think in the present situation we're in now, what are things you can do to emulate those feelings or those activities that were once your favorite things to do. And I think when you do things like that, you feel like you're in flow, you lose track of space and time. You're not focused on what might happen in the future. You're not worrying about things that may have happened in the past. You're really just in a flow, and this could be a hobby. It could be learning something new. Whatever interests you, that you can get in that flow state. And it may only be 15 to 30 minutes a day, but do whatever you can make time to do when that really feels true to you. The other thing that I think can help being in the moment is really laughing out loud at something that you find hysterical, because you're just focused on what's funny. You're not focused on other things that are going on right now. So that could look like, watching a funny television show that you like, or a movie, or a funny podcast, reaching out to friends and family members that have a great sense of humor that they're going to make you laugh. A personal example for me, which is my guilty pleasure, which makes me laugh out loud and gives me that being in the present moment and not focusing on anything else. I love to tape Jimmy Fallon. He is doing a program from his house with his family and his kids, and he is living like most of us are during this time, and he really brings a good sense of humor. His kids make his artwork for him, and it's just a really realistic view of how we're all feeling right now. And not everybody has time to watch TV. I know some folks are extremely busy and packed, but even if you could take 15 minutes and just schedule that time in your day to really do something where you laugh out loud and just lose sense of time, I think it can be really helpful for living in the moment time frames. And with that, can we advance to the next slide, please?
We'll be making a transition to speak with Zoe Phillips, and let me know if, Zoe, you can see the screen. Are you able to see the screen, Zoe?
Yes, I'm waiting on that slide to come up. That will, I'd love.
Okay, so I have pressed that, and I'm just going to do it one more time. I thought it was right up, so here it is, Zoe. And let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, wonderful. Hi, everyone. I'm Zoe Phillips. I'm a physician assistant. And tonight I wanted to talk to you a little bit about ways to give back. This is a website, serv.pa.gov. And this just outlines a volunteer registry that is for individuals who are affiliated with the medical field, but also non-medical field. So this is a website where you can be a part of this registry and discover some ways to give back. We hear a lot from our patients about asking about ways that they can be a part of something bigger and contribute to this pandemic in a positive way. So this is one resource and one option for you to look into. All right, I'd like to look at the next slide, please. Wonderful. Another option for our patients in terms of what we can do to give back and such would be to look into our daily emails that Dr. Tetlow is putting out just to stay current and up to date. We also wanted to mention the opportunity to drop off some personal protective equipment. There are many different sites set up, and you can use this link to learn more about that. As you know, there is still quite a need for personal protective equipment. So if this is something that you may have to give, many hospitals and medical sites would be very grateful for that. And also, we wanted to mention a link for a plasma donor registry. And this is set aside for patients who have been confirmed and diagnosed with COVID-19 via a test. And if that's the case, then many are looking for plasma donation, so that way we can learn a little bit more about COVID-19 and the best way to treat it. So we also wanted to mention for those who are wondering about potential tests in the future to discover if they may have had COVID-19. I just wanted to share with you that many independent testing companies are researching and developing tests that will look for the antibodies to determine if individuals have had COVID-19 and may not have been formally diagnosed. So stay tuned to learn a little bit more about these possible test opportunities. There are none available as of yet, but we will do our best to keep you informed. And this could be a wonderful resource and wonderful way to give back and to donate plasma, but stay tuned for more information about those tests. Now I'd like to move into the question and answer portion of this webinar. So feel free to use that question and answer tab at the bottom of your screen. And we'd love to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to use that tab. It's got a little message icon at the bottom of your screen. And we'd love to answer any questions. So far, we don't have any questions from our viewers.
And if you're interested in something that I could share, I can also contribute, Zoe. And this is something that I haven't actually had a chance to share with you. We've had a very busy day. And when we had our provider meeting this morning, we had a pretty jam-packed time. So we have meditation with the staff. So that's administrative staff and providers all together at 8. So we meet prior to that to talk about patient care. And I didn't have an opportunity to tell you this this morning, Zoe. I actually treated a patient yesterday who shared with me that he was aware that family members were falling ill and they were in New York City. And I'd love some input and discussion about this choice that a patient's husband made. So there was a patient whose husband's family was having symptoms of COVID-19 in the New York City area, and there was a grave concern about whether or not they were going to get the care that they needed. So what my patient's husband decided to do, and I'm sharing this in a way that protects confidentiality, and you won't know any of the personal information of the people I'm talking about, but he got in the car. He first discussed it with his wife, and he made a proposal, and they discussed it together. And then he got in the car and he went to New York City, and he took his grandmom and his mom from New York, and he brought them back to Pennsylvania, where his grandma was admitted to the hospital and received care. She was diagnosed with COVID-19, and then his mother was also diagnosed with COVID-19 and was not treated in the hospital, was quarantining at home, and didn't require any hospital care, but was separated from other family members in the home. And then because he had exposed himself and didn't have appropriate protective equipment to go and pick up his family in New York, the husband also developed COVID-19 and sheltered in place and was doing well after 7 days, and actually was starting to feel better, was fever-free, and actually didn't require any medical care. And throughout this time, there were family members that were coexisting with and without COVID-19 infection in the same household. There was a lot of care taken with how they interacted with each other, how meals were prepared. There was a lot of cleaning of the home, a lot of awareness of the amount of distance between family members. And they also utilized a new finding that came out just this last weekend, that if you're in an enclosed space and you open the window, then any air particles that might be present quickly exit. And it's just such a beautiful discovery. So when you're outdoors, that 6 feet is just a very reliable and safe distance to keep from others. And indoors, it's even safer to have that window open if you have that option. So they were utilizing the window open. They were utilizing good safety practices. They made a decision as a family. And I just wanted to put this forward as a story that was shared with me, in that there were some troubles and bumps in the road where there was actually exposure to the husband, and he actually contracted the illness because of his decision to pick up family in an infected area where, there was actually some very positive results in that there was an opportunity to care at home and to be aware when there was a need for that threshold to cross over into medical care. And so that was happening when it was needed. It wasn't happening when it wasn't needed, but there was safety, security, communication, and actually the family felt good. They felt united, and they respected each other's decisions. So I wanted to share that story that touched me yesterday for the choices that we're faced with and how we respond, and also some very positive outcomes in that particular case, and a lot of courage.
Zoe, would you like me to address the question about foods for building the immune system?
Yes, Julie is asking you, Erin, what food she can eat to help build her immune system. I'd love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for the question. The best thing that you can do, if it's possible for you at this time, I don't know what your financial or home situation is, but it is really to focus on whole foods. If you're able to do cooking and make the food yourself. We've talked in previous webinars about using Instacart. We have found really good luck with using them as a food grocery delivery service. Foods that are high in vitamin C and then zinc. So you might want to focus on peppers, strawberries for the vitamin C. Zinc, you can use pumpkin seeds. Seafood sometimes is a good source. I don't know if you have access to oysters, they're high in zinc. But basically, at this time, whatever you're able to shop for, if you can get whole food and if you're able to buy it organic, that's really going to keep inflammation down in your body and keep you as healthy as possible.
Wonderful answer to that question. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. We have another question from Lori. She is wanting to know, How do I release the anger I feel when I see so many people not following guidelines? The numbers are not getting better, and so many people don't think these guidelines apply to them. She mentions that she's over 60 with immune issues, so she's extra sensitive to what she feels is threatening to her well-being. How to release this fear and anger? Would anybody like to speak to that? Maybe Linda?
I'd be happy to, Zoe. Thank you. You know, I think this is a common thread when I talk with friends, family members, patients, you know, that everyone's not following the rules. And then what do I do about that? And I think that becomes a challenge because there are people that we can't control. And so, but it doesn't mean we don't have the anger and the fear. So things that I think are important is, one, we can lead by example. You know, wearing a mask if you have to go out. If it's someone that's a family member, I think speaking about the fear and saying, I'm afraid when, you know, when I see you go out and talk to someone too close and don't follow the rule on social distancing, maybe. And speaking the fear rather than the anger. If it's not someone that you know and someone you can't talk to about it, then talking with a trusted friend. Maybe even talking with a professional, because when I'm thinking about your particular situation, Laura, you're in the high-risk population. And so knowing that that fear is very valid and that it needs a voice, and that so you find whether it's a friend who understands, and maybe not necessarily someone that can get into the anger with you, but someone who can support you, give you permission to have your fear, and then process through that. I think another way that's that can be helpful is even writing a letter, you know, dear person that wasn't following the rules, and write the letter down and get all of that anger out. And if it's not something you can actually do something about, maybe you burn that letter or rip that letter up, something to release that energy. Because what we know is if we hold on to the anger, if we hold on to the fear, then that affects our immune system even more. So I think talking with someone, perhaps even a professional, and getting support, as well as finding outlets for that anger that are healthy, that don't hurt you, and that don't hurt someone else.
I'd like to add to that, if I may. I want to appreciate what you just said, Linda, and also say that I think that's really a good way to handle the situation, because I have been maybe making some other choices at times. Sometimes my impatience will overwhelm me, and also my feelings of fear that are underneath the anger. I recently was interacting with some family members, and you know that expression that we have in the United States, losing it. I can say that I did not follow Linda's advice, and I expressed my anger in a way that I don't think actually that my communication was heard. I think that there was offense taken and there was hurt. I created hurt. And there was a brief experience of feeling better, having allowed the lid on my anger to be released. And I felt, well, that feels better momentarily. And then what I noticed after that is that I had a feeling of tiredness, and that it had taken a lot out of me to go into that state of anger and to be in it and to express from that time. And then I had some work to do to repair relationships. And that created more work for me, because I wasn't able to have the presence of mind. You know, it's hard these days to be able to make the right choices all the time, right? We don't make the right choices. Living with our loved ones or living alone and being together, there's patterns and there's things that come forward. And I can speak for myself and say that there's so many opportunities for growth everywhere I turn, left, right, in front of me, behind me. And I think that I learned again how that didn't work for me, my choice yesterday. And also it creates a different dynamic where someone doesn't feel heard. I didn't have that connection and communication where I expressed and that was received. So the expression might have temporarily made me feel better, but there was work to do after that. So I think that I'm learning every day. I want to do it, to do it better, and also to forgive myself for being the very much human being that I am.
And I think that's something that's so important, Dr. Tetlow, is to forgive others, to forgive ourselves, and to know that we can then make amends and have healing. And it is an opportunity for growth every day. And, and it takes a lot of grace and courage to admit when we've not acted maybe in everyone's best interest. And so I think honoring ourselves when we take those different steps and allowing ourselves to heal is so important.
I think that our growth process is really accelerated during this pandemic. So any personal issues that we've had to say that they're coming to the surface, I think is an understatement. And I just want to acknowledge that there's so many things that are accelerating, which is also making it especially important for us to be aware of what speed we are internally. When do we need to slow down? When did I need to slow down, even recently? I think we have a response from one of the persons who asked a question in the Q&A. It's from Lori. So Zoe, can you acknowledge that?
Yes, Lori said, thank you. Yes to all of that. It's been exhausting me trying to be so hypervigilant. Great advice. So thank you both Dr. Tetlow and Linda for responding so gracefully and so personally to that question of Lori's. Thank you, Lori, for listening and for being a part of this community.
I'd like to check in with my providers and my team to see if there's anything else we'd like to share this evening. And with Erin, Linda, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I think we are kind of winding up a little early, but I think we've had some great questions and some great sharing. And so maybe if there are no other questions, depending on what Erin and Zoe have, maybe we wrap a little bit early this evening.
I want to thank everyone. And if anyone has anything else they'd like to share before we're wrapping up, you can just give me a hand and I'll acknowledge you. I was just wondering also, Michelle, if you don't mind, in terms of the spotlight, if you don't mind, so that we can finish up, if you don't mind transitioning it over here in my direction when you have a chance. Or perhaps Linda is supposed to be winding up our evening, which she would do a beautiful job if she were to do so.
You're spotlighted, I think, Dr. Tetlow.
Thank you. I just saw that transition. So I want to appreciate the care and attention that each of my providers took. I was admiring their outfits and the way that they were getting dressed and getting ready to participate in this webinar tonight. These are team members who are working really hard, who are caring for people throughout the day, spending a lot of time preparing for appointments, listening and responding to patient messaging. And I am so proud of my team. I'm proud of each of you for also being able to manage the many different personal aspects and levels that are occurring for each of you, and also bringing that into balance with many of the needs that you're encountering throughout. So there's our staff's needs, and there's our patient needs, and there's also our team's needs as a provider team. And I want to thank you for being part of Philadelphia Integrative Medicine. I want to thank you for showing up to work. I thank you for caring for yourself so that you can show up to work. And I want to encourage each of us to do the sleep, do the rest, do the downtime, do the fun and the laughing. Thank you so much, Erin, for that very personal message. And I'll be checking out some of those suggestions that you made tonight, because I would really benefit from seeing people how are in that real way, experiencing and laughing about our current circumstances, which are, there's a mindset shift where we can also find as much connection as possible during this time. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your heart. Thank you for caring for yourself. And we hope that you can join us again next week on Wednesday, and also sign up for our daily messages if that would be of service for you. Have a great night. Thank you. Signing off.